Hey you awesome people, welcome to my channel. This is Sapta, and if you are here for the first time, this is the place where I help designers build and scale their career with tips, suggestions and tutorials. So if you're into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. In this video, I'm going to answer the questions asked by you over Instagram. Last week I shared a story where you could go and ask me a question. I received around 300 questions and I have picked 10 out of them which I'm going to answer as a part of this video. If you want to participate in similar Ask Sapta videos in the future, follow me on Instagram, the handles are right here. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Let's start with the first one. High paying job with a toxic environment or a decent paying job with a great environment? What's your pick? Question asked by Darshan. I'll certainly choose a decent paying job with a great work environment and culture, except if I'm in need of urgent money. In that case, I may choose to survive the toxic culture for some time, of course, while taking enough measures to survive the toxicity. What's your take on the growth of a designer working in a design team versus a sole designer in a startup? Question asked by Shreya. I'm assuming you're asking this question from the perspective of a first-timer. Remember, if a startup hires a first-timer as their sole designer, it's highly possible that they are doing it to reduce their cost. They probably don't even need a designer. They just need a pixel pusher, a tool operator, or a pair of hands who would execute their ideas. Sure, you will do large volumes of work, but you'll never know if you're doing the right thing without the proper guidance. Design, in my opinion, is a collaborative process, and it makes a lot of sense when you work in a team where you get constant feedback and the mentorship, especially in the early years of your career. So, from a long as well as a short-term perspective, as far as possible, try and work in a team. The next one is an interesting one. How can an introvert be a UX designer? Question asked by Jerin. And there's also another question which will have a similar answer, which is the most important skill of a product designer? Question asked by Piyush. Now, about being introvert, I think I know where the question has come from. You probably have seen a lot of designers like me, the extrovert people who do not mind sitting in front of a camera and recording videos and content like that. So that may make you into feeling that every designer should be like this, who are talkative, who are outspoken. But that's not true. Being extrovert is not important for being a designer. However, what is very important is that you are clear with your communication. By communication, I don't mean your spoken communication. I don't mean your ability to speak a language. I mean your ability to clearly articulate your thought, what you have inside your head, to another individual, be it using words, writing, images, sound, or anything. That is important. I have personally worked with many great designers who are introverts. They wouldn't speak a lot. They would sit at one corner of the room and do some incredible work. So yes, it's possible to be a great UX designer even though you're an introvert. What is the most underrated skill a designer should have, according to you? Question asked by Vic. I just mentioned in the previous answer that communication is one of the most important things for any designer. And communication is never one way. There are two sides, to as well as fro, and we often miss one of these two in our interpersonal communication, and that is listening. Be it understanding someone else's idea or getting feedback from somebody else, listening is a very important thing. So, in my opinion, the most underrated skill for any designer is the skill of, or rather I would say it's the art of listening. Do you think advancement in AI will lead to decrease in design jobs? Question asked by Khare. Similar questions are also asked by Tanmay and Sham. If you're a designer who only creates screens, that is, if your work is restricted to the UI level of things, then yes, AI will not just decrease, it may even completely kill your job. I mean, what's there in screen? It's just boxes filled with colors, text, shape, or images. That's it, right? Do you think designers get paid so much just to do that? Nope. I mean, any machine can automate all these things in a much more efficient way. What is valued is your ability to understand when to dot these rectangles, under what circumstances, for what kind of people, their emotions, and a host of other qualitative factors which is beyond the understanding of any artificial intelligence or machine, at least till the near future. And when I say near future, I mean the future which is relevant to you and me. How do you try to incorporate UX in a company which tends to look at UI as UX? Question asked by Pankhuri. There's also a similar question. How do you grow in a company that least cares about UX design? This question is asked by Drishti. I'll give you two answers, one difficult and one easy. Let's start with the difficult one. The difficult one is a two-step process. The first one is confidence. You tell the people concerned in the company with confidence that if you do this, then A, B, and C will happen, which will be beneficial for your company. The first step. And the second step is results. Once you have promised the things with confidence, you should also show the results by doing all these things. Now, the reason I call it the difficult process is because it gets difficult to predict what kind of decisions will actually give rise to certain changes. So as a designer, you may not always be very confident to say with certainty that this is the change which is going to drive the desired results, especially if you are in the early years of your career. So here comes the easy solution. The easy solution is do nothing, just switch. Your life is too short to keep convincing someone to do something which is beneficial for them. Instead, I think you should always switch to a company or switch to a place where your opinions would be more valued. I'm a young UX designer. I'm 14 years old and I would like to get some starting advice. Question asked by Ganesh. The answer to this is also an answer to another question asked by Anish, which is, how do you see design in everyday things? To answer the first question, how you would want to start, Ganesh, you should start by looking at the world like a designer. A normal person just looks at things around them, whereas a designer not just looks, they observe and they analyze. I like to call it opening the third eye. I believe that every human being has a third eye, just like Lord Shiva, and we open it only during critical times, when we are observing or analyzing something important, important events in our life where we are taking big decisions. That's when we open it, we observe, analyze, and then finally take a right decision. But a designer opens their third eye more often than other people, just out of curiosity when they see things around them. And when they do it, they observe and critically analyze everything. For example, look at this mic. I use this for recording my voice. It does an incredible job. But the curious designer in me observed it even more closely and figured out that there is a small design problem. The mic by default sits on a desk stand which comes out of the box, and it can be swiveled around the axis to get the correct speaking position. Neat. But here's the problem. When you plug the cable in, the jack protrudes out in a way that it almost touches the base of the stand, which bends the cable a little too much. Now this can potentially damage the neck of the cable over time because there is no special mount or arm that is added to withstand this bend. The mic can also be detached and fixed to a different stand, maybe a longer one, in which case this cable should be just fine because nothing would bend. But the fact that it comes with a desk stand out of the box, a cable specifically designed for this would have been better, maybe an L-shaped one. Now this is a small thing that I have observed and also thought of a probable solution. You can make this as a practice that you do every time you see something. This can be done for physical things like this mic, or even for digital things, apps and websites that you use in your daily life. When you analyze them, find out problems, and also find out solution, and when you write this whole story down in the form of a blog post with all your analysis, the steps that you have taken to find that solution, that's nothing but a case study. And we all know that every designer has portfolios with case studies. So yes, that's how you get started. All the best. I'm good at both coding and designing. How do I start looking for jobs that are right for me? Question is asked by Deep and also Arnab. It's great to know that you're good both at coding and designing. But when you're looking for a job, I would suggest you take one of the skills as your primary and use the other one as an auxiliary, which adds more value to the primary one. Why? Because some humans have this tendency to feel that when they see an individual with multiple skills, they believe they can at best be average at all the skills and not a master. That's a tendency. So a better strategy would be to say, hey, you know what? I'm a designer, but I can code as well. So, all the complicated designs that we create in the front end, I can code them perhaps myself. That, in my opinion, would be a better proposition to put in front of your employer instead of telling them that, hey, I can design as well as code. You tell me what you want me to do. Nope. You decide the path and use the other one to increase its value. Things to do as a first-time manager. Question asked by Vivek. Well, the first thing that you should understand when you become a manager is that your success now depends on the success of your team. And you better understand that well. Because there will be days where you will spend a lot of time reviewing, helping, mentoring, attending meetings, and a whole lot of things, but not so much of hands-on design, which is fine. Because, like I said, your success depends on the success of your team, and when you're mentoring your team and helping them out with your work, you're essentially working towards own success as well. So do not ever feel that you're not working enough. And there's one more thing that I personally do. I'm not sure how good or right it is, but let me tell you regardless. When you and your team work on anything, take a little less of the credit that you deserve and a little more of the blame that you deserve. That way you will ensure that your team is boosted with motivation and also shielded from any external things that might affect them from performing well. I believe that if you love your team, they won't mind running the extra mile for you. All the best. How to get a job in UX without actual experience? This question is asked by Saurav and Muskan. Saurav and Muskan, every individual in this world finds their first job without any real experience. That's the law of nature, so you are not in any different case in this. And also remember that when you're finding your first job, you aren't really competing with the other experienced people in the industry. You'll always be compared with other beginners, just like you, who are also facing the exact same challenges that you are doing. So don't worry about that. And this industry doesn't have nepotism yet, so relax. If you're worried about what you should have in your portfolio since you do not have any real work, you can always write some personal pet projects, case studies, hypothetical cases which solves real problems. 2 to 3 detailed case studies should be more than enough to get you started. Remember, it's the quality which matters and not the number of case studies. And don't worry if you feel that you're not perfect. You're not expected to be. It's totally fine. But always keep working towards that. Feel free to reach out to other designers who you look up to for help or portfolio review. That'll make you better. And keep your enthusiasm always high. You never know, you may end up getting some brownie points as well. All the best. So those were the 10 questions that I've handpicked from the 300 questions that I've received on Instagram. Thanks a lot for taking your time and asking those questions. If you want to participate in a future Ask Sapta video, then follow me on Instagram. The handle is right here. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you feel any of the topics or the questions that I've discussed today deserves to be a complete video on its own, let me know in the comments. This is Sapta. See you guys in the next one.